Oh, where is my Bible? Are we ready for another metaphysical manifestation teaching? Right. Without a waste of time, guys, we shall be taking our teaching from Matthew 14, verse 22. Jesus walks on the water. By now, I hope you all got yourselves a Bible. All right? Without wasting any time, let's jump into it. Jesus walks on the water. Then Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side of the lake while he sent the people away. After sending the people away, he went up a hill by himself to pray. When evening came, Jesus was there, alone. And by the time the boat was far out into the lake, it was tossed about by the waves because the wind was blowing against it. Between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came out to the disciples, walking on the water. When they saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and screamed with fear. Jesus spoke to them at once. "Courage," he said. "It is I. Don't be afraid." Then Peter spoke up. "Lord, if it's really you, order me to come out on the water to you." "Come," answered Jesus. So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water to Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he was afraid and started to sink down in the water. "Save me, Lord," he cried. At once, Jesus reached out, grabbed a hold of him, and said, "How little faith you have! Why do you doubt?" They both got into the boat, and the wind died down. Then the disciples in the boat worshipped Jesus. "Truly, you are the Son of God," they exclaimed. That was beautiful. Every time I read the Bible, with what I know now, metaphysically, esoterically, inward, changed my life. I have manifested so many things, cars, money, houses. Completely changed my life. And I'm sharing this with you. Right. Let's start with symbolism. Let's explain the symbols. All right? Let's break some symbolism down. Right? Verse 22. Then Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead to the other side of the lake. Obviously, we know that Jesus is your higher self, your spiritual self, your inner self. All right? The positive side, the all-knowing. Boat refers to you, your mind, and as we all know from the Hermetic principles, the first principle is all is mind. We get that. So let's go back to still on 22. Then Jesus made the disciples get into the boat, and for those who are first time on his channel, the 12 disciples, the 12, represent the 12 powers of man. I'll drop an image so you guys have a visual idea of what is that. The 12 powers of man. Alright, so anytime we mention 12 disciples, it's the 12 powers of man. Move that space. So Jesus made the disciples get into the boat, right? And go on ahead to the other side of the lake while he sent the people away. The symbolism of sending the people away is shutting the outside. So he wanted to go within himself. So shutting the outside world. That's what sent the people away. So you're cutting everything. You're cutting the world and you're going into solitude. After sending the people away, he went up a hill by himself to pray. Hill representing your mind, the place of prayer. Jesus loves to go up the hill to pray, if you know your Bible. So the hill represents the mind, place of prayer. After sending the people away, he went up a hill by himself to pray. So he went within to pray. When evening came, Jesus was there alone. Ooh. When evening came, evening represents a time of darkness, time of trouble in your life. That's what evening represents, right? And Jesus was there alone. The higher self has been now what? Separated with you. You have separated with your higher self. The boat, the 12 disciples, went on one side, and you left your higher self on the other side. That's what it represents. The separation. They are no longer together. Ooh, that's nice. Where was I? When evening came, Jesus was there alone. The separation. You're separated from your higher self. So when you're separated from your higher self, you are now operating from your lower self, your animal mindset, your faithless self, your doubter. And by this time, the boat was far out in the lake, tossed about by the waves because the wind was blowing against it. So once you separate from your higher self, right? Life has its way with you. You start to get tossed. You have no control. That's what toss means. You are now, your situations, your problems, everything negative now has surrounded you. And you are not in control. Waves and wind represent the negatives of your problem. So now you're being tossed and controlled by your problems because you have now separated from your higher self. You've separated from Jesus. Ooh, that's so good. Where am I? When evening came, Jesus was there alone. And by this time, the boat was far out into the lake, tossed about by the waves because the wind was blowing against it. Life's negativity is blowing against you. Verse 25. Between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came to the disciples walking on water. Now, I want us to focus in on verse 25. Between 3 and 6 o'clock. Those are very specific times. 3, there's my pen, is on the right side, your creative side, the right hand side of God. Throw your nets to the right. 3 represents your creative self. Your creative self, the right hand side of God. I hope everyone can see. I don't know if my camera's placed properly. All right. 6 o'clock represents the center, being your faith. I'll show you an image of that. Faith. 6 represents the center where your faith is located. Remember, the reason why faith is located in the center is because faith is the substance in which you do all things. If you're going to rob a bank, you have faith that you're going to pull it off. If you're going to scam someone, you have faith you're going to pull it off, right? So whether you're doing good or bad, you operate from faith. Get it? All right, on my board key. Guys, I hope you're writing this down. Between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, the morning represents You are now, Jesus came to them in the morning, the east side, the right side. But it also represents the switching to your higher self. It represents now you're in trouble and you decide, no. I need to focus on my higher self. And then when you focus on your higher self, the right hand side, you use your creativity to get out of your problems. It represents the morning, switching to your higher self. Jesus has come to you. Right? Get it? It's hot. Okay. When they saw, all right, verse 26. Oh, no, verse 25. We're still busy in verse 25. Between 3 and 6, 3, right hand side, 6, the center of the brain where faith is located, because it is the foundation. And in the morning creative side, the switch to your higher self. So you're going from your animal self to your lower self, to the doubter, to the positive side of yourself. Jesus came to the disciples in the morning, walking on water. Walking on water represents you are walking over your troubles. This is water, by the way. Walking over your troubles. When you have faith and you decide to switch to your positive self, to your higher self, you become creative, right? You don't think with your logical self. You think supernaturally. And when you're in that state, you start walking on top of your troubles. All right? Let's continue. When they saw him walking on water, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and screamed with fear. Right? So when the disciples saw him walking on water, they were terrified. This represents the ghost, the self-doubt, fear, and illusion. Represents self-doubt, fear, and illusion. It's a ghost because the reason why it's a ghost, anytime you're going to do something that makes you uncomfortable, most of the times you don't believe that you can actually do it, nor do you believe it's actually you performing this task that you're afraid of. And most of the times when we try to perform tasks or accomplish things that we are afraid of, there's always that self-doubt that is afraid and negative. Right? Get it? Okay. Are we still recording? All right? So that's what it means. But listen to what Jesus says. It's a ghost, they said, and screamed with fear. Jesus, the higher self, spoke to them at once. Courage! Listen to the language, listen to the attitude. Positive. The focus is positive. He said, it is I. Don't be afraid. Trust yourself. Don't be afraid. It is I. I am that I am. Don't be afraid. Trust yourself. All right? I don't want to take too long, guys, and I hope I'm not rushing it. Then Peter spoke up. Lord, if it is really you, order me to come out on the water to you. If it is really me, let me attempt this thing that I am afraid of. Peter represents faith. Peter represents faith. All right? It's part of the 12 powers of man. Peter represents faith. Lord, if it is really you, order me to come out on the water to you. If it's really me who wants to achieve these wonderful and scary things, this is your faith talking to you, right? It's saying, go, push yourself. You can do it because you are now operating from your higher self. It's all about self-talk and focus. All right, I'm so sorry, guys. My camera died. All right, where were we? We were at verse 28. Then Peter, sorry, I'm not an English speaker, guys. Then Peter spoke up. Lord, if it is really you, order me to come out on the water
to you. If it's really your higher self, that dream that you want, you have to push yourself, your mind, your positive self, your higher self is saying, you can do this. You can walk over your problems. You can walk over your troubles, but you have to keep your focus on who you are. I have given you everything to live a godly life. God has already given you everything. The creator, the universe has already embedded, coded everything that you need. All right? Verse 29, come, answered Jesus. So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water. Come, meaning, so I can move this. I hope everyone's writing this down. I'm moving this. Let's hurry up. Try. Manifesting using the Bible, once you understand the Bible, I mean, I would say that 99.9 Christians who have a Bible or do have Bibles, we have this, we read it from a young age, we read it, we end up knowing all the stories, and we get bored because we just know what the story says, but we do not understand it. And what made me understand the Bible is because I've read a lot of occult books, mind knowledge books, right? African Kemetic books. All of them just talk about the same thing, just in different ways, right? And because I grew up as a Christian boy, when I was reading these occult knowledge books, a lot of the Bible verses would always click in my mind. I'd be like, oh, that's what Jesus was talking about. Or that's what Jesus was trying to teach. Right. Come, he says. Remember, come to yourself. Meaning, trust yourself, who you are. You have been given everything to live a godly life. You have been given everything. Trust it. Have faith. Right? Answer Jesus, the higher self, your higher self. So Peter, his faith, got out of the boat and started walking on the waters with Jesus. So your faith goes hand in hand with higher thinking and focus. Right? Faith goes hand in hand with higher thinking and focus. Right faith, good faith, and you start walking on your problems or the things you are afraid of. Right. Verse 30. But when he noticed the strong winds, he was afraid and started to sink down in the water. Peter's focused. He moved his focus from positive to what? Negative. I don't know if you guys have watched the first episode I did, and I uploaded an exercise where your mind can only focus on one thing. For those of you who haven't done it, please go check it out. You'll understand this. This will hit you hard. To negative. Is that a H or an N? To negative. Wait. Where was I? But when he noticed the strong wind, he was afraid and started to sink down in the water. So his focus switched from positive to negative, back to the evening. And he started sinking in his problems because he's noticing his problems, and fear has struck him again. Right? But when he noticed the strong winds, he was afraid and started to sink down the water again. The water is the troubles. Save me, Lord, he cried. At once, Jesus, the higher self, reached out and grabbed a hold of him and said, how little faith you have? Why did you doubt? At once, so he noticed Peter started to sink into his problems. And immediately he switched. He wasn't positive. He saw the problems, he saw the negatives, went to negative, went to the negative side, and immediately he reminded himself, shifted his focus to positive. What did Jesus do? Jesus grabbed him, pulled him out of the water. That's what it means. But when he noticed the strong wind, so anytime you lose focus, right? Anytime you lose focus, you need to eliminate all doubt, all self-doubt, right? Because anytime you lose focus, you will sink. But when he noticed the strong winds in his face, he started sinking down in the water. Save me, Lord, he cried. Those who run to the Lord shall be. God will be their refuge. Run to the Lord. For your body is the temple of the God dwells within. And at once, Jesus reached out, grabbed a hold of him, and said, how little faith you have. Remember how we define how little faith you have? Jesus is saying, how little faith you have. What poor state of mind you have. State of mind. State of mind. What a poor state of mind you have. Anytime Jesus refers to how little faith you have, he is saying, what a poor state of mind you have. All is mind. It's beautiful. That's not complicated, guys. I watch a lot of YouTubers talk about manifestation, and they talk about parallel lives, quantum leaping. But what does it mean? How does it help you? How does it help you? Crazy. Anyways, let's carry on. Why did you doubt? You don't walk on water because you doubt who you are. You doubt what God has placed within you. They both got in the boat, and the wind died down. Then the disciples in the boat worshiped Jesus. Truly, you are the Son of God, they exclaimed. Verse 32, they both got in the boat. Now, remember in the beginning, they were separated. Right? Jesus and his disciples. And now at the end, and when the storm has calmed down, they are one. And that, guys, is the lesson. You don't manifest because you don't walk on water. You don't walk on water because you have fear and you have doubt. Trust yourself. Trust what God has put within you. Forget about the waters around you and what's happening. Trust yourself. Manifestation is that easy. It's all in here.
And if you don't want to struggle and face difficulties, then maybe you should never have been born, because that's my pattern. How dare you fall out because some misfortune has come in your life? Well, you know, we was in a fire and everything got burned up, and yes, what else? And some of my family died in the fire. Yes, I gave life. I'm the ultimate cause of death. You got a problem with my will? Because you're going to die too. And you don't know how, you don't know in what circumstance, you don't know in what place, but you do know. You do know. You getting up out of here. That's the pattern of life. If you don't want to die, then you should never have been born. But now that you're born, then you need to understand what is the purpose for your life before you get out of here.